Tom, you are absolutely wrong. I am outraged. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody's having a fantastic week this week, as the dollar has been nowhere all week long, which is pretty much par for the course at this point in time. These daily ranges on the dollar are very small, and they are very sideways. As you can see right here, we broke out last week and in 2 days, essentially, but we were sideways for the rest of those days last week. So you broke out on Wednesday, inside day, right here on Thursday, and then Friday broke out. And then here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today. So essentially, the dollar hasn't gone anywhere. Now, this is big resistance up here. It is the Q4 2025 high. It is the level that's been holding the dollar in this range. So, I mean, we could see a breakout here that could ultimately fail. We could see a liquidation here, or dollar could fail here. It just depends on, I guess, your macro outlook. In terms of the technical signal is to be a buyer, obviously. I mean, it has not changed. You can see the 21 exponential moving average has crossed above the purple 200. The yellow line is the 21. So, I mean, as long as that is the signal, then that is the trade direction. So unfortunately, that means even though the Bitcoin is bouncing today, you would probably be more of a seller. Now, if you are a seller, you are under the weekly open, this would be a sellable opportunity. Your deltas are not positioned for a great short. But as you can see here the other day, they were going up when you came into the New York session, and then the sellers showed up. So something similar could happen today. Right here is your weekly high. That's your week open. So that wick is your high. So if you wanted to, one could look for shorts there. One could look for shorts here. My concern and problem with looking for shorts on Bitcoin is the same as it's been all week. You are stretched out down here. That just means that you're down low on the bottom of the range and you haven't really bounced. But that doesn't mean that it won't keep going down. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin is going to remain weak as long as people are selling. So, yeah, it doesn't look great. But at the same time, the dollar hasn't gone anywhere. So, I mean, if you're becoming a technical trader, the thing that you're looking at are technical indicators to give you a technical bias. You would have to be a seller. You would just be probably sitting on your hands a lot. Yesterday, we got a spike in oil, essentially because Donald Trump announced that he was going to destroy Iran. So you got a spike on oil, but as you can see there, it traded up to the monthly and monthly VWAP as well as the weekly open. I did miss that entry, unfortunately. You did miss that entry. Anytime a trade setup happens after 4 o'clock, unless I'm looking directly at the asset when it puts in those highs, I'm going to miss it. As you can see right here, this happened at about 8 o'clock last night. I was doing other things. I was not looking at the laptop. Now, it wasn't a heavy sell off, but the trend has been lower all week. As long as Donald Trump keeps becoming or acting that way, like, you know, wants to continue the war, then oil probably will not roll over. So we kind of have this thing where we're not seeing the dollar do much this week. So today could be the day where we get the upside expansion. Basically, we positioned ourselves for that upside expansion yesterday in this asset right here, pound dollar, because last week we shorted the euro. So we're already holding shorts on the euro. Yesterday morning, you can see that as pound traded up here, this is when we took our short opportunity. And so far it's working. Looks good. But this is exactly the same. You're in a 4-day range. Boop, 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 boop. So, yeah, it does look like it wants to head lower. You're at support. You've got daily support there. You've got daily support there. We don't know if those daily supports are going to hold. You're into weekly support. And let's check our technical signals here. As long as you're closing weeklies under the 21, I like it lower. It's not in a trend. It is in a very, very long multi-month range. So essentially you're just scalping the ranges. If you shorted there, this would have been your take profit number one if you were looking for weekly range expansions. And then, of course, take profit number two would have been this wick down here. That's played out. So there really isn't a new or fresh signal here this morning. Maybe one could watch 4-hour supply, but it's not the greatest 4-hour supply candle. It's not a breakout above resistance. It's just a lower candle. It's not actually a supply candle. A supply candle needs to break out above resistance, above all highs, close, and set that trap, so to speak. We are bearish here on the RSI on the 4-hour. 4-hour market structure is bearish. Your 200 4-hour is above the 21. All that's good. So basically, we're just waiting for it to either A, break down or turn around and come up and stop us out. To take a fresh short on Bitcoin, it's like, ugh. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't love the short setup because it got so oversold and it's bounced, but it hasn't bounced very far. So it doesn't seem like it's strong at all. The macro signals, since CPI came out on Wednesday, or was it? Yeah, it was yesterday, right? We got CPI yesterday. Wednesday, yeah. Right there. Since it came out higher than last month, that puts real rates further into negative territory. So essentially, there's a bunch of money still, and this is a macro signal. This thing takes months to years to play out. But there is a lot of money in money market funds right now that are not making money, even if they are supposedly making 4%, because the real rate is negative and it has gone further into negative territory. Inflation is outpacing the 4%. Therefore, everybody that's in the $9 trillion market fund, they're potentially going to be looking to put that money elsewhere. This has been pretty much a really good bullish signal for Bitcoin, but it could take months to play out from the time the signal triggers. The signal triggered last month. So it could be October, November, it could be 2027 before people start, rotating funds into Bitcoin. That's what's going to take, I think. The sentiment in Bitcoin right now is really bad. You literally have the Bitcoiners, right? The people who are involved in Bitcoin split. So that makes it very difficult to be on. I mean, if you're split, you're not on the same page. It makes it more difficult to grow the asset. The asset must grow. There must be an inflow of money coming into Bitcoin. Whether it's new or old people, doesn't matter. But that's what we got to start seeing before we can get super bullish on the asset. Now, with that being said, do I think it is a very good investment for a long-term hold? I do. I absolutely do. But investments, all of them are risky, right? So mitigate that risk. In terms of a trade, there really isn't much here. Here's your current week range. So this is good news if you're looking for trades. That means you haven't missed the expansion this week. So, I mean, the issue is which way is it going to go? Right? That's the current issue. I would probably be aiming towards the downside here. There is bullish divergence down here on the RSI, but that triggered last week. So you could be seeing some inflows based on that signal alone. So let's go take a look at Bitcoin ETF flows to see if we're seeing any inflows. Today is the 11th, and no, we are not. So that signal triggered last week, and this week so far, You have not seen inflows. Now, outflows have gone down dramatically, which is a good sign. But we need to see inflows. We need to see inflows by the tune of like 250. Right? That's a good sign. We're not seeing it yet. So I would still be bearish, unfortunately. We need to see some kind of bullish spike or some kind of price action to essentially tell us that the bulls are here, and that hasn't happened yet. So clearly I'd be a seller. I just don't like selling here. I think the sell opportunity would be if you make a fresh week high this morning. If you continue to break out above the fresh week high, then you're just going to miss it. If you have a bullish bias, you would be taking a long right now, right this very second, as you're trading down next to the prior 4-hour candle swing low. You would just have to put a stop. You would be buying the day high, and your stop is going to be tight. That's it. That's it. That's what we have. So, I mean, it's not great. I don't see any setups, unfortunately. None that are fresh. None that are great. Everything in the crypto world is down. Got a little spike here on Pingu yesterday. It's a whole lot of nothingness. We're going to get a brand new IPO tomorrow. It's going to be SpaceX, anywhere between 10 and 2. I think most people are going to have their attention on that tomorrow. So we're definitely going to look for that. And if it's not super choppy, we're going to look to potentially jump in. That is, of course, if we can. Hasn't done a lot from yesterday, so let's go look at the overall market. The overall market has pulled back significantly. You tested on Tuesday, you tested real close to the bottom edge of the weekly expected move. So in terms of volatility and pricing, this is very efficient, as long as you're not breaking outside either to the downside or on the upside of these lines, green and red lines, then you're very efficient. You're trading inside of the range that that probabilities assessed would be the size of the range. Very efficient. Today you are going to be gapping down slightly. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry. This is a daily chart. I thought this was getting ready to say that is not the right chart. No, sorry, you're going to be gapping up slightly from yesterday's close. But as you can see, this 4-hour has already taken out the prior 4-hour low. So if you would have bought the same signal on the S&P, you would have probably been stopped out, depending on how tight your stop was. It's just not a great signal. I do like the fact that we are trying to make a fresh low on DVOL, which is just Bitcoin's VIX. So that's a good sign, but price doesn't have to go up just because volatility is going down. Volatility coming down just means the selling ranges might not be as big, but it's not bullish on its own. But, I mean, it looks better than it doesn't. So, yeah, I mean, here's your daily chart on Bitcoin. You're up at yesterday's high. You took out yesterday's high. But if you're buying that 4-hour swing low, like I said a little bit earlier, you're literally buying right at resistance. Resistance would be yesterday's high. That's where sellers are going to be looking to put on fresh trades, as we are in a multi-day range. Yeah. So sellers are going to essentially just be watching that. And as long as Bitcoin is trading under that, there is no reason for them to get bullish. I'm not looking at yesterday's high. I'm just looking at the weekly open. I'm trying to just basically see what the whole week has done. as that it can tell me a little bit more. But if the whole week is sideways, then I'm always going to be looking mostly for the short trade. The deltas are slightly positive this morning, and the VWAP is slightly positive, as price is currently trading above the VWAP. You could look at that as a potentially bullish signal as well. But you're still negative on the week, so there's that. And then oil, I still am going to look for the short. So let's see if we can get positioned. We have an 8-hour supply candle right here. So maybe we can try to mitigate risk right there. I don't love oil shorts when dollar is strong. Dollar isn't strong, it's sideways, but it's, as of right now, it's making higher daily lows. So it's strong. It's more strong than it is weak. It's at the top of the range, right? So it needs to break out. If the dollar finds resistance and starts to roll over, I think the short on oil would be lovely. I think it would work out beautifully. But like I said yesterday, with Trump saying that he wants to start bombing Iran again, it's that headline risk is always out there, isn't it? There isn't really anything we can do. But the technical signal on oil is still to be a seller, at least on the near term. The long-term signal on oil is not to be a seller, depending on how long-term you're looking. So if we go out, if we just pull up the actual futures, the U.S. futures, let's get our moving average. As you can see there, you're trading into support here on crude oil futures. Big support zone down here. You've got weekly support and the 21 exponential. This is why it's having a difficult time breaking down. Very sideways the last 3 weeks. Don't get chopped up. But yeah, I think I like it lower. I just don't love where it is in terms of looking for the short. Because this high right here is pretty much midpoint. That's kind of a good look. So as long as price shows an inability to trade above 91.48, I can be a seller. So that's the price we'll take it, or we'll keep our eyes on here this morning on a perp. Just the prior 8-hour high, which is going to be just this near-term spike right here. So yeah, if oil fails here, 89.82, we'll put the short on. So I think this one will be the one that we're going to keep our eyes on the most. We do have significant selling pressure here this morning as well, which is a good thing. We're under the 50 on the 4-hour. That is also a good thing. So technically speaking, this is a sell. And since it's trading up near our entry, this will be our favorite setup on the day. So if you're watching me, the setup that I'm going to be looking for, CLUSDT, I'm going to be using an exchange called Weeks to do that. I will probably do nothing on Bitcoin. I have a very small near-term long open on Bitcoin from this wick low. Essentially, I waited for the 5-minute chart to quit putting in lower closes, and once that came apparent, I bought it. And turns out it ended up being the low. That was just straight luck. There was no major level down here or anything like that that triggered a long. I was just triggering or just putting on a long for the dead cat bounce. So, and we got that. So I took profits on the move up. I was essentially looking right here when I took the trade. I bought here, and as this candle pushed up into that swing right there, that was my profit taking target. And so now this long is still open, but it's a very small position. If Bitcoin rallies from here, I'll make money on that trade. If it doesn't, I won't. That's about all I can say for it. But in terms of putting on fresh risk, like a large position right here, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's just too small. Yeah, yesterday's high right there. I mean, you're literally buying yesterday's high. But it is above the VWAP. So you want to see the buyers come in here, okay? And let's pull up our session volume profile to see if the point of control is showing us it's a buy. It is not. Point of control is at the top of the range. This usually indicates more sell side activity than buy side activity. It could be people looking to buy the breakout because it is trading above yesterday's high. But it's still not a very bullish sign. I typically want to see the point of control being under the midpoint of the daily range when I have a bullish bias, like down in here. But this could be a bullish signal. And people are buying it today. So because the deltas look like this, you could be a buyer. Just understand that you're buying it literally at resistance. So the trade is probably not going to work. But with that being said, as long as you're okay losing, say, such and such dollars to see if it does, well, then you can trade it. You can trade it. We have exactly 13 minutes until the New York session opens. Let's look at NVIDIA real quick. NVIDIA did not hold support. People selling to get ready for the big three IPOs. There hasn't really been any news. It's just with Google requiring $80 billion or asking for $80 billion, and with the SpaceX IPO coming out, you still have Anthropic, you still have OpenAI that are both going to IPO. It's literally people freeing capital up to take part in those IPOs. Wall Street firms getting ready to fill that massive void. That it's like the world's biggest IPO ever in terms of market capitalization. So yeah, it's going to be a big open hole in the indexes. So they are going to free up capital. That's essentially what we have going on. Some people are going to think that it's the top of the AI bubble. I guess if you want to look at it like that, you can. Ultimately, I think you're going to be wrong. There is a shitload of money in the money markets that is getting ready to come into risk on assets. You don't have to believe me. You can look at it yourself. You just want to pull up the real rate and then compare that to your favorite chart. The way to get the real rates, if you don't know, you're going to use a US 03. Here, it's US 03 M, as that's the 3 month, and you're going to subtract that. Oh, you also have to put a year up there, sorry. 3 month year over year, and then subtract that versus US inflation rate year over year. Hit return. Did I do that right? Yes, I did. Okay, let's kill these. So there you go. Last month, because rates, the Fed funds rates are still stuck at 350 because inflation has essentially gone above 350. That gives you a negative real rate. You can see it's negative by 0.47 thanks to yesterday's inflation print. And then if we compare this to Bitcoin or anything, let's compare it to Bitcoin first. You can see, let's give Bitcoin a different color. We'll make it gold or orange, whatever. Oh, this is when you turn negative here. Last time in 2019, you turn negative on the real rates. This is when money market funds literally they're not making money anymore. So they rotate that capital out of money markets and then they put them into risk on assets, and it sparks massive bullish rallies. So here we are again. And Bitcoin's on the lows too. So not only is it time to rotate capital, but you have an asset here that is making fresh yearly lows. So it's got a value proposition. I am not buying an asset that's at all-time highs. I'm literally buying an asset that is potentially making bear market lows. So you can see how it's like not a great short signal. All right, let's get rid of Bitcoin and we'll compare the S&P 500. Well, there's no point. The S&P 500 just always goes up, always. The reason it always goes up is because it gets rebalanced on a quarterly basis. They kick the losers and they put in the winners. That's why it always goes up. Tech obviously has a massive weighting inside of it, and because the breadth is so low right now, you know, tech is essentially the only stocks that are keeping the S&P up, but it is overvalued by any metric that you look at. If you look at the Cape-Shiller ratio, it's going to be literally at highs. I have the Cape-Shiller, but I don't have the actual Cape-Shiller ratio, but what I do have is Cape, which is an ETF that essentially tracks the Shiller PE ratio. The Shiller PE ratio is similar to all of the other overvalued ratios that you can look at. There's no doubt about it. The S&P 500 is at highs, but there is still a lot of money in America, and that money has to go somewhere. It is not going to set in money market funds when money market funds are not paying. $8.19 trillion in money market funds. So now's not the time to be an uber bear. I think what people are obviously waiting on is going to be the Fed. The Fed is next week. You're getting a BOJ meeting. They're anticipating a hike in the BOJ. They're anticipating that the Fed will do nothing. So I think a lot of people, I'm waiting on the Fed before I make a decision on what I'm going to do with the money in that I have in money market funds. All right. So essentially, I'm just approaching it the way that I normally would approach this scenario. It's funny, but it is the way it is. It is what it is. All right. My bank literally wants me to go into a money market fund because they think that I don't understand. There's no money being made right now in a money market fund. Not at 4%. If they want to give me 10%, then okay, fine. But or just 6%. Anything more than 4%. So yeah, that's what we currently have. We need to see some demand coming into Bitcoin, I think, to hold it up. Or we need to see dollar weakness or something to give it some near-term bullish momentum. We just don't have that near-term bullish momentum. So the deltas are positive, but the POC is up at the high. So it's just not a great signal. If you have something that you think there is a good trading signal right now on, drop it in the chat and we'll go look at it. Because literally the only thing that I have as of right now is oil, and it's not something I love thanks to Donald Trump. All right, let me pull it up real fast. Oil. Funnily enough, there's more people trading oil today than there was yesterday. So take that with a grain of salt, but Yesterday, at the end of the day, there was only 600,000 contracts traded. Already today, we've got over 1 million. Don't really love the idea of selling 30-minute res. But it looks like I'm a little late to even do that. Let's see what this thing is doing on the near term. Eh. So oil's cooking with grease today. That's good. That means it's moving. It's down 2 already, though. I would rather get it up here than down here for sure. Fortunately, it looks like it's already moving, so I'm gonna wait and see what it does if it comes back up here. If it doesn't, I'm not gonna chase. I can't chase it down here. I can't just sell it right here. It has to be up here. It has to give me a better risk return on my money. So down here, it would just be a potential 1% move, whereas up here, it would be a little better. See that? So I can't really do anything with it here. Let me set an alert. Pound dollar is looking good. Euro dollar is looking okay. Getting paid to hold euro dollar shorts from the rollover rate anyway, so there's no reason to close this trade. As long as you're getting paid to hold it, hold it. Let's go look at pound yen, because it moves a lot. Maybe it's in a setup. It is not. Trading anything versus the yen right now is risky. Silver, what is silver doing? Nothing. Yeah, silver you should be taking profits on. It's probably going to bounce soon. You're oversold down here. Where you? Yeah, you hit oversold on the daily time frame as well. I would definitely take profits if you got short silver with us last week. Definitely take profits. This thing could be getting ready to bounce. It's the same thing, right? If the dollar's at resistance, then silver's at support right now, because they're kind of trading inversely to one another. If there is going to be a setup in FX, it's probably going to be in one of the cross pairs. Oh, here's Pound Cat. What are you doing here? It's more bullish than bearish, but damn if that ain't sideways. If the moving averages were flipped up here, 250, 21, then I would be selling this. But they're not, so I can't. Sorry. Euro Aussie. So this indicates that Euro is way stronger than Australian dollar right now. Yeah, same thing with this one. I would be a seller. I mean, a buyer. But I can't buy it because it's at the high day. Maybe if it pulls back to daily demand, we can take a look at it on EuroCAD. You've also got a weekly demand level there, but last week's open could potentially be a setup. But yeah, I wouldn't love that if it came back right now. All right, oil is looking like it wants to go lower now that we've got the bell. What's Bitcoin doing? It's still not doing nothing much. Why is this saying 8:30 and it's 9:30? Why is that Coinbase chart not working? Yeah, that Coinbase chart has been froze up. I didn't even know that. So sorry. Well, anyways, here we are. We got Bitstamp working. That's currently looking for lower lows. The bell rang 2 minutes ago. That's your 9:30 candle right there. Let me see. Did one of you guys say something about that to me? SpaceX tomorrow. Curious to see if historic IPO rallies the markets. It is definitely a historic IPO for sure. Good morning, everybody. 12-hour supply on CME, says Tom. What's your thoughts on the Russell current daily structure? We'll look at the Russell here in a second. How did you catch the bounce at 59? I realized that when I bought it, I was buying the lows, and it was just very overstretched. So I'll show you. I don't know if it's going to be the same on this. But let's go look at it. So first and foremost, I keep my, this is explicitly to you, Nonstopity. So right here was the prior low. And it made another lower low. So once you broke down right here, downside continuation was to be expected, except if you look at where your 200 was at that time. You see how extended price is from this 200? This was the support right here. It made the low, then it traded back to the low and bounced. That is support. So this candle was the first candle that broke below support. So if price is going to continue, it's going to continue below that low, obviously. So I knew it was getting very, very stretched out down here. And once it stopped putting in 5-minute lows, this was a liquidation run right here, right? As it breaks through there, you get one lower low, then another lower low. Here's the expansion break. So from here, every other candle should have been opening with a lower high and a lower low. Lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Similar to these three candles. Because this is your fresh break and close. But then it immediately stopped. So what I did was when this candle traded back down into that white line, I said buy and set my stop right there. It was just luck. Literal luck. Literal luck. I actually thought this candle was going to close under and stop me out, and it did not. And then the next candle opened up and it took off, and it left that area. So as soon as it traded back up to this high, because this is that prior 4-hour swing high, I had my take profit setting right there. I was just looking for a dead cat bounce scalp, an overextended market to correct. This was my take profit. And price did that. Boom. So then I was out. So now my stop is literally setting at break even. And the rest is history. I was just trading the ranges. Unfortunately, when I bought this, I had no way of knowing that it was going to stop because it was currently expanding lower. So it was trending. But it hasn't gone anywhere since then. Right? It's just slightly higher than where I took profits. So I don't look at the 5-minute charts very often unless I'm looking for like a really active scalp. Very quick in, very quick out. When I'm scalping like that, I'm essentially just scalping the range of the 4-hour candles. Just like I said, right there is where I'd be a buyer today. It's just because that's the trading range. But the problem is when you're doing that, your take profit has to be the high right here. It's not a big enough move. Bitcoin doesn't have enough volatility to do that today. If you bought it today, you would literally be needing a breakout. So it'd be no different than doing that, right? I'm buying there. So if you're looking at the 5-minute, it would have been a buy right here. And now that 5-minute candle has closed and that's the lowest close, that would tighten up my long entry right here. And as you can see right here, this 5-minute candle wicked right into that. So that would have filled me on a buy limit. If I was trading the range, right? If I was scalping the ranges. Take profit, like I said, would be right here. Slightly lower than that, though. I never want to let price get to the take profit. I want to take profit before it gets there slightly. And my take profit in this scenario would probably be roughly about right there. And then I just let price do whatever price is going to do. Because I can't predict what it's going to do. Ever. But if you can do that and maintain a 50% hit rate, you're going to be profitable. It's simple. Also, that was it was the prior year low down there. You know what I mean? Well, it's not like I didn't have a major level to keep an eye on. It was literally February's low. And if you go back into the 4-hour chart right here, you can see it make a little bit more sense, right? Right here is that prior year low. So that was the first liquidation of the prior year low. Almost knew for a fact it was going to bounce here at least a little bit because of all the stop losses that were here. I don't even need new buyers to show up. I just need all the stop losses to be there. And there's a shitload of them down there. If you remember what we were talking about before price got down here, there was literally zero liquidity down here. Zero. We looked at this indicator right here. Oh, sorry. We looked at this indicator that day. Here, let me log into this POS. Right here, we were looking at this, but we were looking out a year. And this red line was on the floor. There was literally nothing down here. All the risk was to the upside, which it still is. Like, there isn't any liquidity down here. All of this liquidity is people that are trying to buy lows. That's it. Those are your every low buy. Every low buy. That's these people. At every single swing low, there is a new buyer. Every single one. So now you're just liquidating those people over and over and over again. But because there's not enough liquidity to go, you need a massive amount of fearful selling for sell side pressure to continue. I would assume that most people who want to sell Bitcoin have probably already sold. Because Bitcoin's been in a range for 4 months. Looking real weak that entire time. So there just wasn't much liquidity down there. And we knew there wasn't. And then when we looked at this on a yearly basis, there's going to be liquidity down there now, but still not much. So you can see how this means nothing. The liquidity is liquidation leverage is right. Oh, you want the lighter colors. That's where all the liquidity is. You can see how it's starting to build in now. But that was where it was, all the liquidity was smoked. But see how it's building in now? See how it's like really faint? The more time it spends going sideways here, the more this liquidity will build in. Because over time, more and more and more people are taking positions. That builds up more and more liquidity down here. The chances are, I mean, you're probably looking for a spike, but if the dollar is breaking out real strong, you need Bitcoin to be stronger than the dollar for the upside continuation. It was just a random. Yeah, we had a lot of reasons to look for it, but if if when this was happening, if more and more people were becoming engaged in selling fear, this would have kept going. This would have kept going. Last time that happened was back over here. When we did that, when we took out all the liquidity and then got a bounce, and then it bounced for several weeks. Right? So if you look at this, see how this candle did not get all the way down there, then it bounced, and then it came down. This candle opened and broke it. So instead of just getting slightly under it and bouncing, it literally kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Can you see the difference in that? This is fearful selling. So even though there was no liquidity here, price broke well deeper into that, then chewed that up for a few days, and then boom. That's fearful selling. Most of that's gone. Most of that's happened. Or a lot of it. Not most of it, I guess I could say a lot of it would be a better word to use. Yeah. So we think a bounce is coming soon. We just waiting on the Fed. But there's still ranges to scalp. You can still scalp the ranges if you want. Yeah, oil broke down, so I can't chase it for sure now. That really, really sucks. Because I was holding the short on oil yesterday, and then I added to the position. So that brought my cost basis down to here. So when this pushed up into it, I had to close the trade. Because I wasn't looking to risk more money, I was just looking to risk the unrealized P&L. It was a really good week. Nailed a couple good ones. It would be nice to freaking nail a good one today. There just isn't anything to look to nail. Everything has already been nailed. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I wouldn't love this short on the spoos either. If the spoos gets up here and fails, maybe that would be a decent place to short. But I mean, it wouldn't look like it if it took a long time to get up there. If it was a 5-minute wick up into here and a failure, I would short the spoos. But since you're down at yesterday's low, that would be the better trade probably. So maybe if we get a rejection here and a wick down into here, if it stops going down, we can buy the spoos. Let's see how many contracts I can trade on SPX. Wait, that's not... Probably the SPY. US. TradFi. Is that SPX also TradFi? No. I can only trade 27 contracts. 27 is so random. So I can't, this isn't even worth trading. I mean, ugh. Sideways. What was that? Maybe we can buy Pingu if it trades back into this 30-minute support. If we get a wick into this and it holds, we'll try to put on a long position there and use this current low as our stop loss. Maybe. We'll see what it looks like. Actually, it would have to be this wick low. That would be too far. But I don't necessarily love the idea of getting long with the dollar trying to break out. Yeah. You can see how very aggressive the sellers on the dollar are up here. They're very aggressive. It's just too expensive to short the dollar. Holy cow, dude. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So choppy. But anyways, I don't like all this hype around SpaceX IPO. I don't know. Well, the hype is because it's the biggest IPO of all time, and because it's Elon Musk, and because of AI. I mean, yeah, it's literally the thing that's moving this summer is AI. So anything that is AI related is going to naturally have a lot of hype, and then you put Elon Musk's name on it as well, and yeah, very hype full. All right, give me 1 second as we wait for the dollar to decide what it wants to do here. All right, okie dokie. The SPY's bouncing. Trying to get a little bit of a bounce here with Bitcoin this morning. I imagine sellers are still going to be here. Yeah, Zcash is actually trying to bounce too. But we could try a Zcash long. Hang on a second. The momentum is actually coming into it right now. Yep, we can try to buy right here on Zcash with a stop right down there. That's a very tight long, and your momentum right now is kind of bearish. You're above the deltas nicely though. Yeah, it's a risky trade. It's Thursday. You're under both weekly and monthly VWAP. You're under the weekly open. This would be a sell on a technical basis. The deltas would concern me if I was trying to short it. And the POC massively concerns me for trying to buy it. Because most of the trades today that happened in Zcash happened here at 429. So whether it's people taking profits being long down here or new sellers selling it based on yesterday's POC, doesn't matter. We know that most of the trades took place here, and price spent a lot of time grinding here, and now it's leaving the area to the downside. Kind of indicates that it was mostly sell side activity. But the buyers are the aggressors, or have been the aggressors all morning. Well, since the Asian session. It'd be easy enough to mitigate that risk, right? Buy, stop loss down here. Simple. If it's going to go higher, this would be considered a pullback. If it isn't, we're going to get stopped out. Plain and simple. Zcash is a big mover, so make sure you're not risking a ton of money. But you're also technically into a 4-hour demand zone here. Never mind. That is not what it looks like. So Coinbase must be down, period. Yeah, but I'm talking about the exchange. Coinbase chart not working must mean more AWS outages. Yeah, something's up. Like, not just Bitcoin, it's all Coinbase. All assets on Coinbase. Long silver, maybe. Okay, so you could think, you could potentially take a look. Where is silver? Where did silver go? Oh, wrong. I put it on EuroCAD. Yeah, let me get it back over on silver. I mean, you could buy silver for a dead cat bounce, right? It's extended to the downside. But what you would need is dollar weakness. However, you're at the high of day. So anybody that missed shorts on silver yesterday are going to look for shorts up here and up here. So these are the two areas that people will be looking to put on new shorts. I mean, the entry would be similar to Bitcoin. You're taking a long literally at the high of day. If it's more of a long-term trade, like a buy and hold for weeks, then you could justify buying here, as your stop loss could be the low of day. But you would only be risking 1%. If you're looking for a day trade, it's already moved up. You've already essentially hit take profits. But that didn't happen here. It happened here. People just essentially waited for the candle to close, and then they took longs. Yeah, it's just risky. It's not a great setup. A better setup would be like right here. And then it's still very high on the day range. That's about where the daily midpoint is, so that's pretty much where you'd want to see support hold. Just a very choppy day across the board. Maybe it's not in stock land, but oh wait, I don't want to look at that. Here, let's just go here and do this. Apple come off quite brutal this week as well. Apple could potentially be a long for a near-term scalp up to here. Ooh, yuck. Never mind. Apple has already chopped that up. My internet must have went down because I'm lagging so hard. And what happened to Microsoft? It had a nice bounce, breakout, and rejection. And this is more than a rejection. This is downside continuation. It's a 200-week moving average, though. Netflix can't get a bid. If it doesn't break down with a strong close today, it might be getting close. Yuck. Can I trade Netflix? Yes. Nobody is trading Netflix. Only 16,000 contracts traded. 50 is the max. Okay. No, I wanted to Give me 1 second. Saudi Aramco holds the title for the largest IPO in history at 30 billion. SpaceX is almost 2 trillion. That's a colossal difference. Yeah, it is a massive difference. For sure. So it looks like the dollar might be heading higher. So right there's resistance. 30-minute resistance. It's kind of late in the session, which means Bitcoin isn't holding. Four-hour res is holding on Bitcoin. That could have been a decent scalp if I would have had the line on the chart already, but in hindsight, it's not going to be helpful. If Bitcoin does ultimately break down, I wouldn't want to get long any of these because they're all structured short. I mean, if Bitcoin rolls over, I wouldn't want to buy crypto because they're all bearish. They all have bearish signals. The trade would have been to be looking for a short on Bitcoin, unfortunately, because the dollar is a long. It's not a long today, but it has been a long all week at prior day lows. There, and then here, and then here, and then here. Like any pullback into those areas are where people are going to be buying. I literally have 2 shorts open right now. So I have 2 longs essentially open on dollar. One from last week and one from yesterday. So essentially we bought the dollar yesterday when it traded down into the prior day's low. That's when we got short the pound. We wasn't looking at the pound, we was watching the dollar for the signal. The dollar traded down into support, so we hit sell on pound, and ultimately it worked. So today I would just be expecting continuation. When that's 3 a.m. We shorted it yesterday. Up here is my entry. So as it was trading up into here, we just short. For the weekly range expansion to be lower. And that's what's working. So, I mean, to change that. Oh, I just screwed up. I just canceled the live stream. Hang on one second. Yeah, I X'd out. Let me go back to it. I X'd out the whole tab. What an idiot. Let me get the music back there.
Our world
no. I don't want to do that. I want to go back to here. Thank you. And epidemic sound. I X'd out the whole tab. Oh. Going from monitor to monitor is sometimes challenging, to say the least. Do not know what song that was on, so I'm just gonna start it over. So everything is reset, huh? Sorry about that. All right. Goodness. Yeah, it's hard to change a bias when you've already got a trade and you're in the weekly expansion. Yesterday we didn't so Tuesdays are usually where we're looking. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays is when we're looking for either a weekly high or a weekly low. And since Tuesday was pretty much choppy all day, going into Wednesday's session, we knew we wanted to be a seller at the weekly high. This week's high. Right? This current week's high. So you can see that's not where we were looking for the trade. Right here. So since here's Monday, you know, you're moving up, but last week was a down expansion. We were just looking for that trade to continue. So essentially when it traded up into the level that we were interested in, and the DXY was trading down into the level that we were interested in, we fired off the trade. And now the weekly range is going back into expansion mode. So I currently have those positions open. It makes it difficult for me to be like, okay, I want to buy here now. It doesn't make any sense. But since I was looking for dollar long positions all week, that hasn't really changed. Nothing essentially has changed. So if I was applying my dollar bias to Bitcoin, I would be a bear. My problem with shorting Bitcoin down here is it's so extended. It's still very extended. Now on the 4-hour time frame, you have gotten out of these massive oversold levels. It's really bad that Bitcoin can't even find bullish momentum on a 4-hour chart. You know what I mean? That's not a good sign for Bitcoin. And then, of course, your deltas were more bullish today, so there's that. But ultimately, if I was looking for an open, if I'm looking to put a position open on Bitcoin today, I would have been a seller. And that would be my main bias here on silver as well. So like when you're asking for silver longs, though it's extended, the trend is lower. So it's a risky short because the trend is lower, but that doesn't mean it's a buy, right? And that's what I was thinking when I bought Bitcoin when it put in this low. It was just for a scalp. It was a dead cat bounce only, not for like bullish continuation. I wasn't looking for a bullish reversal. I was just looking for a bearish bounce. Whenever if you've missed the move, so if you've missed the weekly range expansion, which we haven't got one on Bitcoin, to be fair. That's why I said today would be maybe the weekly range expansion starts today, right? But because last week was a sell, to be a buyer this week, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. The reality is, I mean, as long as Bitcoin is struggling to break out above the prior day's high, that means the pressure is still bearish. Looking for shorts here. Could you put a stop loss up there? Yeah, you could. But it's a wide stop loss. You would need a big move today in order to generate a profitable trade. Oh, you're supposed to go up, please. So you would need this expansion to be quite large in order to justify putting the risk on. Because that's how the setup would look. So generally what I'm trying to do is keep my bias, but get my entry to where I can mitigate the risk better. So I have a lot less of a stop loss. That means I need way less of a move lower. You see what I mean? the sellers have already essentially made money, but that would have been a difficult scalp to take. And this all is assuming that the dollar continues. The dollar is into resistance here. That's resistance, and then this up here is major resistance. You could short Bitcoin at 4-hour supply here and mitigate the stop above the high day if you need to take a trade today. The silver, it's just not. It's so stretched out. It's further stretched out than Bitcoin is at this point. Using the 400 or the 4-hour 200 as the mean. It's not the mean. The 50 is most likely the mean. But it just keeps me out of the wrong or too extended trades, which is what we kind of have across the board. We have a lot of extended assets out there. Like this one. It's extended, but the trend is clearly lower. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's a long. However, if it could stop going lower than this point right here, then you don't have downside continuation either. Because that is last week's low. So maybe if it can build in support here, I could justify buying Netflix like next week. Or today if it shows signs of not being able to get down into that area. We're still early in the session here, and it does appear to be kind of struggling, but I'd say if it's going to resume trend for the week, it's about to head lower. We're seeing a lot of things resume that trend. The dollar is well above resistance now, so intraday resistance. The sellers are going to be stopped out. It's so expensive to short the dollar right now. Big money ain't doing it. This one. Let me pull up forex.com real quick. And go into accounts. Rollover rates. So we don't care about Aussie because Aussie literally is not in the DXY basket. So Aussie would be a decent place to look for shorts on the dollar as long as it's not expensive. So basically for a short dollar position, you'd be long Aussie dollar. You still have to pay, but it's not much. It's minimal. Whereas Euro holds the biggest position inside the DXY. You can see to be short Euro dollar or to be long Euro dollar right now, meaning short the dollar, means you're paying $1 per 10,000 contract or 10,000 units. Whereas if you're short Euro dollar or long the dollar, you get paid. It's negligible, but it's free money as long as price itself is under your or below your entry, right? So as long as price is below my entry, which is up here, I am getting paid. So let's flip this out to a daily, remove all drawings. My entry is one spot 16528. Right there. Alt H. Shit. I literally had it. So this is my short entry. So as long as spot price is under this blue line, regardless of what price is doing, it doesn't matter. Price can literally do this forever. And I'm getting paid every single day. Now, I'm also getting paid, obviously, because I took a directional bet. So if there's a trend, then each time price breaks down here, obviously my P&L will go up. But even if my P&L doesn't go up, I am still making money every single day. As long as price is under this, I make money every day. This is why it is very difficult to be a dollar bear right now. If I had to manage, hundreds of millions of dollars, I would have the same position on because I want to generate a yield on that money. And right now I can. Every day I can generate whatever it is, 15 cents per 10,000 contracts on a daily basis. With $100 million position, that could be like, 10 grand a day or 5 grand a day just to be short euro dollar, regardless of what price does. It's the carry trade. That's why there's trillions of dollars in this market. It's no different than holding a money market or holding money in a money market fund. As long as price is under my entry, I'm good. So that's why dollar short positioning just doesn't make sense right now until we get some tighter spreads. And we won't get tighter spreads until we get an interest rate decision out of the US. But there's the spread between the euro and the dollar. That spread is what generates the carry trade. That's what generates the amount of money that you get paid to hold that currency position. And right now it's you actually have to pay on pound dollar regardless of what side of the trade you're on, right? So it doesn't matter if you're using pound, you have to pay whether you're long or short. It doesn't matter. So right now, being short pound dollar, I'm literally paying 48 cents per day on 10,000 units to hold that position. But then it gets really crazy. But like I said, there are assets that you could hypothetically go short the dollar and not have to pay a whole lot. Well, that one's worse. That one you would pay 40 cents. What was Aussie dollar? 11. So the cheapest way to short the dollar would be being long Aussie dollar. But it just doesn't justify it because they're not part of the DXY basket. So if you go look at being short dollar versus the CAD, you're paying $2 every 10,000 units. Being short the Swissy, you're paying that. Whereas if you're long USD Swiss, you're making 72 cents every day. Being long USD CAD, you're making 22 cents. Being long literally everything. Being long USD JPY, you're making 51 cents every day. So when you put that into context, you get a chart that looks like this. So it doesn't justify the positioning right now. Get that Fed meeting and the Fed comes out and does something crazy, completely and totally against the market and says we're going to cut rates, then you could potentially justify a short on the dollar. Now, obviously, those are for long-term position holds, big positions. So that doesn't really matter if you're scalping the market. If you're not going to be holding the trade, overnight, then those carry trades do not matter. But you can see how much they are influencing this market. The shorts do not pay very often for very long. If you're lucky and you get a move in your direction, you must take profits and close it. Not just take profits and leave your position open. It's just get the move in your direction, exit the position. As right now, it's so bad. Every single dip is being bought. Every one. Now, we know that the BOJ is potentially intervening. So the question is, do they have enough money to sell enough of this to make it become exhausted to the upside? We'll see. I guess we'll see. This looked like we were going to see exhaustion, but they bought it right back up. 160 is where they operated before. They might not operate at 160 again. Maybe this time they're looking for 165 or 170. But that's the threat, or that's the risk from buying this, is that the BOJ intervenes and then price rolls over. Buying it at 160, that's the risk, is you don't know how far they're going to allow it to go up. But obviously, because the yields are so wide, getting paid every single day a half of a dollar on 10,000 units is enough to justify these buyers to get long. The BOJ is in kind of a pickle here. They definitely are going to have to hike, and then they're going to need to hope that the Fed cuts. All right, so Bitcoin, even though the dollar is trying to break out here today, Bitcoin is not rolling over at 4-hour supply. So it does look like your buying pressure is still on. We'll see if they can hold it. This is 4-hour supply right here. So 4-hour res is up there. That's where the fight is in today's market. Coinbase experience. Oh, yeah, read that. I took a long scalp on Bitcoin. Nonstop, he says, not too choppy, in your opinion. Well, I mean, if these moves are big enough for you, I mean, good for you know what I mean. Good job. But I can tell you right now, it is not moving very much. As from this white line to this white line is only 0.6%. I generally want an asset that can move 2%, not 0.5%. So I require a little bit more of a trending move to put risk on. Since Bitcoin is currently up 2%, I could justify shorting here if I felt as if though Bitcoin was going back to the day open. I don't know that it has enough volatility today to go down there because the devol is like, that's your day open. So essentially I'd be shorting right here, stop right there. This would be my take profit target. Or, you know, generally speaking, it's not what I'm doing. I'm just simply trying to teach. But yeah. Yeah, I could justify that with the technical signal, the technical structure, with the strong dollar. I would much rather justify that trade up here at 70K or at 72K. I don't, like, I own Bitcoin, so obviously I want it to go up. But I'm talking purely on a scalping, doing a scalping strategy. It's just a bit extended down here. So I would rather short something else that I thought had room to go to the downside. My favorite trade is oil because I do think it has plenty of room to go to the downside. As oil at $88 is still extended. I mean, it's up. It's up high. I'm not saying that it's going back down here to 60 or anything, but up here at 90, it's still very expensive. The last time it got up into these prices, it couldn't stay up there for very long. Just a few months. Figure the same thing happens, but once the US and Iran gets their shit together. But right now, it's a risky trade for sure. And it is at support too, so there's that. That 21 exponentials right here. That's what's keeping it up. People are buying it. And I can tell you something, it looks like it's holding. That could shift my long-term bias back to the upside. As this is a rejection. It's rejecting lower prices right now. So the near term, I can still justify a short, but once it gets back up into here, I would probably be more long biased again. As we've spent 3 days here trying to break down, and it's not breaking down. So, yeah, depending on what this thing does tomorrow, or today, obviously, could potentially justify a long on oil tomorrow at like 89.13. But right now, because of this, it's still a sell. Just knowing it's into support. We need the breakdown. That's what we need. I don't know that it's going to be able to do it, though. It's definitely failing. It's definitely failing. These are going to be hyper important levels tomorrow, depending on how today closes. If today closes above yesterday's open, right? So here we are on the very near term. If the for whatever reason if oil can't close under 89.40 tomorrow, that might justify a long trade because this is clearly rejection. And other traders are looking at that as well. This has already taken out the prior 4-hour high. If this candle makes a higher high today, I could almost justify getting long on a pullback to Wednesday's open tomorrow. Based on this pattern of failure at support. And also we have a strong dollar. The dollar is literally breaking out right now. That's the key breakout point, but it has already broken out. That's yesterday's high. You're already trending. It's already trending up. That's a problem for Bitcoin. But so far, the buyers are keeping it held up here. If Bitcoin could maintain bullish strength with dollar strength, I think that could be a very bullish signal for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin doesn't shit the bed here today with the dollar breakout, that could be a good signal on Bitcoin. Or a good sign. It still makes it a very risky proposition to look for longs, but you get what I'm saying. At least you can say, well, it's stronger than the dollar. If it could maintain that strength, I could justify longs. So it's just going to see what happens here today. It's anybody's game with a slight edge to the south side based on dollar strength. So we'll see what happens with oil today, ultimately by the close, and then we may shift our near-term bias a little bit if it doesn't break down here today. Because last week, oil did show us weakness, even though the dollar was strong. So that could be a good sign for oil weakness longer term. Also, I find the percent trend in indices interesting. From 1932 to 71 was a 2,600% increase. In 74, recession followed with a lower low. Yeah. They've just destroyed the value of the dollar in the last 20 years. Short Euro Huff at 55, says Peter. Okay, let's go look at Euro Huff. For anybody that doesn't know, that's the Hungarian forint. And you said short at 55. So here, okay, let me get it right at 55. Oh, you're saying you make 55 cents a day for holding shorts on Hungarian Euro versus Hungarian forint. Okay. Yeah, the carry trade does justify a short. I don't like the trade. It's extended. I mean, several weeks here you've been heading lower. It does look like that carry trade is very attractive. The further you get away from the long-term averages, the more worried I get, because just short covering can cause this to spike violently. So obviously the better trade would be anywhere up here for the short. I know that's a major wide spread. I get it, but that's where the best trade idea would be. Now, with that being said, I could still justify them as long as price is not trading above that. You know what I mean? You can see how the buyers tried to break it out and they failed. Buyers tried to break it out and they failed. Buyers tried to break it out and they failed. So you can see where the sellers are in fact interested in taking that position. And you can clearly see where the buyers are also interested. Now, how much are the buyers paying? Ooh, a lot to do that. So yes, this is mostly probably retail trying to pick a bottom. However, it could also be short covering, like I said, because it's kind of extended. But yeah, as long as it's trading below its prior week high, I can justify opening a short trade on it. I wouldn't take the short right here, right now. It's just, this is a European market, so it's probably going to do better around the European Open. That's probably when you're going to see most of the volatility on this thing. I don't know that to be a fact, but we can definitely go look at it and see if it does get volatile around 2 o'clock in the morning. You can see right here at 2 o'clock in the morning, it did in fact get volatile. So your Euro session traders jumped on it right there. This is New York session. New York session. And then once again, your Euro session traders jumped on the short right there. And look at that, man. So at 2 a.m., when the London session came online, the sellers jumped on the short right there. So price is definitely choppy. It's in price discovery. And I agree with you, the carry trade still justifies a short trade. The extendedness is dying down. For a scalp, probably at 356, 236. This has a massive wide spread. But yeah, I would shorts would definitely be the positioning or the direction of trade. You just have to wait for a great objective technical level to put the setup on. Yep. Good job, Peter. I like it. Your mind's in the right place. Follow the big money. Forget about, all of these stupid strategies out there. Trust me, the carry trade is more important than any Forex trading strategy on the market. It's what big money's looking for. It gives big money a reason for the positioning. And not just a technical trade or a technical setup. So that's what we currently have right now on Bitcoin, right? You have a technical buy signal being bullish divergence on the weekly RSI. That is a technical trading signal. Does the macro positioning justify it? Just in funding fees alone? The answer is no. This isn't everything, obviously. Did I already overshoot it? Obviously I did. Where's funding rates? I'm looking here. Funding rates. Okay, right there. So it's getting closer to justifying a long, because when this turns red, this is annualized. If you're looking at your exchange, you're going to see the funding rates change every 8 hours. We want to follow or track the long-term positioning funding rates. So when this green line turns back to red, then that literally means that people will get paid to just buy and hold Bitcoin. So if we had this in the red with that bullish diverging signal, you can see how also the macro right now, with all that money sitting in money markets that are not getting paid anymore because inflation has overshot the 4% mark, all of that money could potentially come in. Now, generally speaking, looking at the funding rates chart, you can see that it mainly stays negative. In other words, negative for holding long-term positions, right? Because there's usually more buying going on than selling in the blockchain. So the funding rates have to essentially change in the bear's favor to justify them even taking a short position. Now, that's generally how it goes. You can see how, once Bitcoin does become bullish, then the funding rate pretty much stays bearish. So basically, what we're going to pay attention to are the earlier lows. If those earlier lows can be defended, and when I say earlier lows, I just simply mean February's lows. If it is, as of right now, being defended, right? So the longer that price defends these lows down here, the more justification I can make to put on those bullish positions. As it will be support. And we want to see demand. We want to see demand starting to show up. We want to see price holding support. We want some kind of indication that bulls are starting to make that move, even though it is still, not really conducive to hold long-term positions in terms of a funding fee annualized. Funding rates or rollover rates are going to be more important in an FX market, not so much on the near term. If you're a scalper, it doesn't matter if you're not holding positions overnight. If you're looking for long-term positioning, the funding rate matters. It absolutely does. You can see it playing out pretty much on all FX charts right now. But for scalpers, stuff like that does not matter. You're getting in, getting out. Yeah, Bitcoin is currently trying to hold support, even though the dollar is currently breaking out. This is good. This is a good sign. I hope it can continue to do that. I really, really do. I hope we're seeing sell side exhaustion. I really do. I can't make that claim yet, but I will be able to make it later on as time goes on, based on what price action does for me. You guys are in the right place. I have money that I need to make, right? I have to make money. I don't have a job, so if I'm not putting my money to work and making more money, then I don't get to pay my bills. I don't have any other businesses. I am a trader. In fact, when I file my taxes, the guy that I pay to do it writes technician, and I am not a technician other than a technical analyst or a price action analyst. That's it. But I'm a trader. That's what I do. I can't afford to be on the wrong side of the markets for very long. I can afford to be on the wrong side of the markets for a couple of weeks, but generally speaking, long term, I need to stay on the right side of the markets. It isn't about what I know or anything like that. It's just about following trends. That is it. That's all you need to learn how to do. If you can look at, see, identify, and follow said trends, you're going to be great. You're going to be just fine. It's the mitigating risk part that you have to hone in on and get tight. Once you have real tight risk management and you understand that this is a long-term process, this isn't about the near term. Even as a scalper, even though I'm an intraday operator, I still understand that it is about the long term, not today. It's about all year. It's about staying consistent. Then I'll be fine. All's good. But yeah, this is a very choppy chart. Very choppy. It's been choppy it's been in the same price range for the last 5 days. So literally right here is the price range that you're stuck in. Bitcoin has not advanced or declined since this day. You're an inside weekly candle, and a very small one at that. Very small. I'm glad it bounced at February's low, but I hope the bulls can continue to hold the line in the sand, so to speak. We got a Fed rate decision next week, and everybody is itching to hear what Kevin Warsh has to say, because he hasn't said anything since being nominated, since he has become the guy. He has not done one interview. He has not said anything to any reporter So everybody's kind of just waiting to see what he has to say. So I'm kind of glad that we do have a SpaceX IPO tomorrow. Because if it wasn't for that, I'd be very concerned with this slow, sluggish price action. I would say the majority of last week's selling pressure came from people liquidating their Bitcoin holdings to prepare for SpaceX. That's what happened last week on Bitcoin. It literally happened this week in risk markets. Right? And you're starting to see that selling pressure subside a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit here today on the near term. So for the last couple weeks, people have been getting ready for SpaceX. That's a big, big, big hole to fill. I would say more than likely it's the SpaceX IPO more than it is Michael Saylor selling his Bitcoin. Now, with that being said, Bitcoin did top out on May the 5th, essentially the day that Michael Saylor said that. So, I mean, yeah, there's that. May the 5th is right here. You made one more higher high after that, and that was it. That was the end of it. But this massive selling pressure, most likely coming from people who were getting ready for that SpaceX IPO. And you're not seeing any severe downside continuation. And for that today, especially with the dollar breaking out, that's a good thing. It really is. It is a really good sign that Bitcoin is not shitting the bed right now. Euro dollar and pound dollar are literally making fresh day lows. Both of them. Bitcoin is still setting at the day high. So at least Bitcoin is maintaining that strength today. We know that there's more buying pressure than selling pressure because of the deltas. They say that as it's above the neutral. That's good. What you don't want to see though today later is bleh, right? That would be bad. So we want to see that strength continue. Otherwise it's going to roll over. I said you could watch 4-hour supply or 4-hour res. Those are the only two places, technically speaking, where you can put a short on today. Your day open, higher than the day open, would be your take profit. If you were to take this trade, you would set it up something like that, right? Entry, stop, take profit. And dollar strength kind of says, yeah, that's probably, going to happen. But the buyers are trying to hold the line here. So a lot can be said for that. But it does feel and look like it's probably going to roll over. Or at least that has been the trend for the last 2 weeks. And then oil, still chopping. Hang on a minute. Yeah, I just can't take a short on oil. Not down there. Would love to see those oil bears just dominate this thing, but they just are not doing it. Choppy. All right. Don't, you're good. You can spam all you want. I don't mind it. I scalped the 3 minute on 10x leverage. 10x leverage is that's a good, nice, sweet spot. $3-minute just means you like 3-minute candles. Oh, that's 3 months. But 3-minute candles aren't bad. I don't have a problem with small time frame charts. I just would rather see all of this in one candle instead of looking at all of these sideways candles. Because what you're looking at here, for newer traders, I find if they would look at the higher time frame charts, they could actually see what's going on with the overall trend, and it would be more helpful to them. Whereas looking at small time frame charts, they see, you know, 1 or 2 big candles and they think something big is happening and that's going to continue. When in a lot of cases, that isn't true at all. But that's all. I mean, you're looking at, in this scenario, you're looking at 140 candles to see the same data that these 2 candles are showing you. Does that make sense as to what I'm trying to say? So instead of looking at 130 candles to get this same data, I can look at 2. If you're a bull today, you're hoping it holds here and that it goes up here. If you're a bear, you're hoping that this ends up being a lower high and this candle ends up being a lower low. That's already happened. That doesn't mean it will continue to happen. You've got 56 minutes until the new candle opens. 56 minutes is enough time for this candle to still close as a bullish engulfing candle. So anytime in the next hour, if you get a large repricing higher, that would be a good sign for bulls. The next hour, it's going to be 12 o'clock. So right here, by the time your near-term candles get here, you're going to want to see a repricing up here if you're bullish. If you're bearish, you're going to want to see this hold. And then hopefully by the time you get here, you're closing somewhere down in here. Just easier to see. For me, I like it. Most people like the small time frame charts. I can go down to 15 seconds if you want. I got second candlesticks if you want to see those. Oops. Here's the 5 second. But it's the same thing. It's the same data. Buyers are starting to lose the argument here. Um, 63,225 is my take profit. I'm not sure what you're talking about on Bitcoin. You said 63.225, so I'm assuming you're talking about Bitcoin. 63 spot 255 right in here. So just above the high of day. I don't know where your entry is, and you said pray for you. You're going to need it. The dollar is breaking out. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin will go down, though. There isn't anything that we can look at that will show us Bitcoin versus the dollar in terms of strength, other than looking at Bitcoin USD, this chart. Like, so you need this. It's as of right now, the Bitcoin is stronger than the dollar. Because the dollar is making fresh daily highs and Bitcoin is trading around the highs. But you can definitely see it is starting to struggle on the near term. So literally, since it made the high, it has been putting in lower highs. And now, with this move, a lower low. You've got 1 hour before the 4-hour candle closes. So you're definitely going to want to see it close up in here, or you're going to be wrong. Probably. We're not seeing anything that suggests it is going to break down, though. If your deltas were negative or under the neutral line, then I would be a little bit more skeptical that you're going to see that higher high. But that's not what you have. What you have is a positive delta. So the buyers are more aggressive today. You're positive. So, yeah, you're probably fine. All right. Took the long on silver, says Nick. Okay. I don't. Where's your take profit? Right there. If it's a scalp, you need to take it right there. Dollar strong today, so be careful. Rollover rate is 55 cents. Yeah, I saw that. Kevin Warsh ended for guidance, a bold move. That sucks. Yeah, I hate that. I don't want him to be a tight-lipped Fed, and that it seems to be the route he's taking. That's not going to be great for us long term. Pray for your silver long too. I don't pray for market moves, guys. I pray for families' health and things like that. I don't pray for market moves. Market moves don't matter on the long term. Doesn't matter on the long term. We can get you to where you're taking better trades. There just isn't much to do today, unfortunately, in terms of the assets that we're looking at here. There probably is a lot going on depending on what markets you trade and yada yada. There's probably, for instance, a shitload of penny stocks that are going crazy today. Well, let's not do that here. Let's do that over here. I don't trade penny stocks, so I don't have those high-powered scanners I used to have. But we can just look for volume gainers and see where the money is today. And then, of course, looking at the small ones. This is up 280%. So there you go. There's where your day traders are today in the penny stock land. So it looks like those people that were buying right on the market bell, they did pretty damn good today. So far, it's been a pretty choppy endeavor. But not too bad. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't made a lower low in an hour, so it is consolidation. This is very risky trading. You're buying a shitload of shares and hoping for the best. It's too fast, I think, for most people to get any good at, but definitely have the average holding here, or trying to hold. Ooh, heavy selling pressure showing up here. Yeah, I don't trade these that often, or I don't ever trade these anymore, but I can definitely trade them if I wanted to. This one is also up to 168%, so this one is also booming today. You also have EDHL up 113%. So you do have 3 penny stocks right now that are on fire, and they're all in the top 5 for volume gainers on the day. So these are all on fire. This one has just been going straight down since the bell rang. This one's probably toast. What was the other one? GLX. G. If this one makes a fresh low of day and continues, I'd say it's probably done as well. They also got in right at the day open. I mean, that's fast, hard trading right there. Virgin Galactic is also on fire today. This is going to be people literally buying this because of SpaceX ain't here yet. I don't know. There could be news on this. I'm joking. There could be news on it. Let's see if there's news on it. If there's news on it that justifies. Yeah, I don't really see great news on it. Probably a sympathy bid. I'd say there's a lot of retail traders that actually think this is SpaceX. It's got a sympathy bid. This will probably get hammered tomorrow. I don't know, though. Long term, what's it been doing? Yeah, slight spike, anticipation. I'd say that's what that is. Just a SpaceX IPO anticipation. The risk markets did shitty the last 2 weeks. SPCE, Virgin Galactic, done pretty damn good. Oof. This bitch has literally held last week's open for the last several days. All week. Support. Now kablooms. Short squeeze. It's probably not a massive short squeeze. It's hard to say how long this would last, but it feels to me like this is getting a sympathy bid because of Elon Musk and his company. But yeah, a lot of penny stocks moving today. Bitcoin's still very choppy here, not doing anything. As the dollar is pulling back off of the day highs a little bit. Very nice 4-hour close there on the dollar. I would be concerned with this only if this current new 4-hour candle takes out the prior 4-hour lows. If this 4-hour candle stays inside of the midpoint of this candle for 4 hours, you're probably going to see another expansion up. You can shrink that amount of time by going to the hourly, but right now the dollar looks fine. I mean, you don't necessarily want to see that. It starts to feel more trappy. But I hate small time frame traps. I despise them. That would be the best case scenario for Bitcoin today, or for Bitcoin longs, is that dollar sellers are showing up here at resistance. It is a big resistance. Major resistance is up here. The reason it's still Q4's high and not this year is because Q4's high is where bullish continuation stopped. Literally no demand above this price. It couldn't even close 2 days up above it. So it is big resistance. All right, Bitcoin. I'd say a move is coming soon on Bitcoin. Lower. I don't like that bounce. This was a nice bounce, and then it got hit right back down. You kind of don't want to see lower lows. Still no heavy selling pressure though, so I guess it's still anybody's game. I would be short this if these deltas were under the neutral line and we had this same price action, the same exact setup. If the deltas were negative, I would be short this right here with my stop right there. It's because the deltas are positive that I don't know which way it's going to go. I wouldn't know which way it's going to go even if the deltas were negative, but the odds would just be better. Kevin Washington, that's crazy. AMC is still mooning, is it? Or at least you got it. Rocket ships there. It has been for a few days. Yeah, it's trying to. I don't know where you're long from, but hopefully you're long from like $1. That's a good look. That's a good sign. It's a higher low support twice. Higher low support, higher low support. You definitely want to see that continue. You definitely want to see that continue. It's into resistance, but I wouldn't sell that based on that. This is a third touch, and it does take 3 touches to make a trend. It's not a verified trend yet, but yeah, it would be hard pressed to get me to sell a $2 stock anyways. It's already been sold off, you know what I mean? This thing has been sold off and split and everything else. They split it right there. That's bad. This thing got absolutely killed. All right, 32 Bitcoin incoming, 32K. Okay. I do not see that in the future for Bitcoin. At all. That would be a 50% drop from here. That is insanity. That would be probably the end of Bitcoin. It would most assuredly, depending on how long it stayed down there, be the end of MSTR. Yeah, that's expecting a lot. I mean, that would be expecting a 50% drop after an already massive drop. So, yeah, probably not. We'll see what the Fed does. I think that's going to basically either put in a bottom for Bitcoin or not. You know what I mean? We know that the BIP 110 stuff is being resolved currently as we've had more miners start to mine BIP 110 blocks. So that's a good sign. Most of the other miners are probably going to follow suit. So it does look like at this point in time, you are going to get a miner. The miners are going to mine the BIP 110 blocks. So hopefully that drama does dry up, and hopefully it's not a fork. Hopefully everything wraps up nice and tidy with that, and then we can put that on the back burner. Once that's on the back burner, with all the money that's out there ready to be deployed, that is not making money due to high inflation, if the Fed even slightly acts like they're going to be looking to cut interest rates, then I would assume a bottom is probably in. You know what I mean? Now, if the Fed comes out and acts like they are not going to cut, they are going to continue to take money off the Fed's balance sheet, and they're going to hike interest rates, that would probably be bad for Bitcoin. And the reason for that is because if the Fed's going to hike interest rates, there's no point for me to move my money out of a money market, right? Because if they hike interest rates, that means the real yields will go back into positive territory and I will be making money again. So we're just waiting to see what the Fed's intentions are, what they're going to do, or at least what they say, and then we're going to speculate on what they're going to do, right? If the speculation is that they are going to cut, then I'm going to deploy my money into something else, not a money market. That's good for Bitcoin. That could be the demand needed. And then we'll see how price responds to that news. But yeah, the macro is kind of situated real nicely for Bitcoin to see a massive influx of capital. If the BIP drama goes bye-bye, then the only FUD left is quantum. And most analysts that are worth any salt at all think that FUD is at a minimum. I mean, that quantum risk is at a minimum 3 to 5 years out still. So for the next 3 years, there is still plenty of alpha to generate through Bitcoin. So yeah, the bit news needs to go away. Everybody needs to chill out. Now, obviously, 4-year cycle market bros are probably still looking for lower lows. They got their lower lows. They should be happy. That's lower lows right there. You got them, so you should be happy if you're a 4-year market cycle bro. If you're waiting for October to be a buyer of Bitcoin, we'll see. I think the Fed might have a lot to say about that. But, I mean, obviously, he might not. There's some risk out there still, but I think once that risk gets put behind us, we'll be looking at Bitcoin and it'll be rocking and rolling again. Along with other assets, because so much money needs to be put to work. All right. Man, what a garbage company. Who? Oh, AMC. It's not that I don't know that they're a garbage company. They kind of got the shitty end of the stick, right? Hollywood went all political and people got tired of them bitching at them and stuff like that. So people just quit going to movies. Plus, they haven't really been putting out very many good movies lately. Nothing new. Everything's a reboot, remake, relaunch, re-something, right? Lethal Weapon Part 27. Everything's got a Part 18 to it. It's like, come out with new movies, come out with good movies. Quit preaching and bitching and talking about everything political. Just make good movies. Maybe AMC could lower ticket prices and things like that to get butts back in the seats. I know a lot of people like watching movies. The problem is technology. Young people nowadays that weren't born in the 90s, anybody born in the aughts and above, they've literally had free media their whole life. So you got to get the young people going to movies. If you can't get the young people going back to movies, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a bit difficult to sustain that business model, simply because I can wait 2 weeks and stream the movie onto my 75-inch 8K TV with surround sound on my couch with my food in my fridge, right? It's like this business is going to suffer unless they figure out some way to get asses in the seats. Hollywood did not help since COVID, right? Since that little shenanigans happened, everything's been a little bit different. For movies and movie theaters and the whole industry as a whole. You've got TikTokers and YouTubers and social media influencers are now the big movie star. You got some of those guys, man, they are just killing it. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 20 years if a freaking YouTuber doesn't become a freaking president because of the sheer fact that they have such a following. This new technology has literally disrupted the way media is consumed. So the old school media, I don't know if they're going to be able to come back. They might be able to, but they're going to have to shift. They're going to have to make a shift somewhere. I don't know how. It's not my job either. But yeah, that stock is bad. Does not look good. And if I look at the future prospect for AMC coming back, I don't see much there. But I'm not an analyst in that way, so I know a lot of people are going to see Steven Spielberg's new movie, with the whole political discord the way it is right now, with Donald Trump releasing UAP videos and all that stuff, a lot of people, the whole alien community is on fire right now. More and more people are looking up to the skies, literally recording every speck in the sky. So I suspect that movie's going to crush it, both in the movie theater and on digital downloads. It's going to crush. I'm going to watch it. I don't believe in aliens, but there's something. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the sky that cannot be explained right now scientifically. Everything isn't a satellite or a sunspot or a gas pocket. You know what I mean? There's some legit stuff that's been videoed out there. And when you have the government literally come out and say, yeah, we don't know what it is, that's concerning. There's one specific one that was dropped by the government that has me kind of like more interested in this whole topic. And it's the one where literally the drone is watching it and that bitch just takes off like, see ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Like that one should have everybody's pants in a bundle. The ones that are just floating around, those can be attributed to balloons or something. You know what I mean? But, or satellite, like the volcano one. That's clearly a satellite. A volcano, a meteor flies behind a volcano, and then all of a sudden this little speck rises up slowly, consistently with the same speed. That's a satellite. It's definitely a satellite bouncing off the sun. But that other one, that ain't. So that one's got me a little bit intrigued. If they release video of aliens, then obviously, I don't know. I still don't know if I can believe it. Just because I've never seen one. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Bitcoin is still struggling at yesterday's high, and it doesn't seem to be wanting to do anything here. It looks like it's trying to break down, but you can also make the argument that the buyers are literally defending. So it just depends on how you're positioned. I have a long on from the other day. I'm going to leave that on. I've already taken profits off of it, so it doesn't matter if it gets stopped out. The only thing I'm going to lose on it is unrealized P&L, which right now is $200, so it ain't much anyways. In terms of opening a fresh short here, it's too late in the session for me to do that. If I was going to short it, I would have wanted to short it earlier. But like I said, the deltas are not currently positioned for that. Also, Bitcoin is extremely oversold. So it can still trade sideways, and then it won't be extremely oversold anymore. But at the same time, right now, it's still just a little bit early. If you are a bear out there and you think that Bitcoin is doomed and it's because of MicroStrategy and quantum computing, well, then obviously you're short. You're shorting every day high. That's all you have to do. You're also getting paid right now to hold shorts. And with dollar strength, you can make that argument all day long. I can't fault you for making money. You're not making money on range expansion this week, but you clearly did last week. So maybe next week is the week that you get your breakdown. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But yeah, right now, as long as dollar's strong, that is an issue for Bitcoin. For me in the way that I analyze price, as long as the dollar isn't breaking down, that's an issue for Bitcoin. Dollar is still bearishly structured a little bit on the weekly time frame. It hasn't been for the last 3 weeks. Once you reclaim that 21 exponential moving average and set higher low support and expand it, it does look like the buyers are in control of it. We've already looked at the foreign exchange markets. We've already seen that as of right now, it is too expensive to be looking for dollar short positions for long-term holds. Since that is the macro backdrop we're in, it's hard for me to think that the bears are going to get this back down. Now, obviously, if there's some kind of rate decision that gets made in the next week, that will change the macro backdrop. That will change the macro backdrop. If they do nothing, I'm anticipating the dollar's going to break out. If the Fed does nothing, I think that because the carry trade because we're at such a high interest rate compared to the other majors that are in the DXY basket, if the Fed does nothing and these other central banks do nothing, if they leave it the way it is right now, the dollar's going higher. Most likely. Because it's too expensive to short the dollar. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. The seller showed up here every time that it's gotten back up here. This might be what they're waiting on. We'll see. I will become a bear again back on the dollar under $99 once it shows me the ability to close weeklies back under the 21. But until that happens, I have to go with how the macro is currently situated. It's currently situated for dollar long positions. That's how I'm positioned in all of my portfolios, except the Bitcoin portfolio that I hold. That one is long. I am long Bitcoin in cold storage, and I am currently long, but in terms of looking for a directional breakout on Bitcoin, I don't really have that yet. I would have to resort to using what technical outlook we have, and the technical outlook is still very negative for Bitcoin, long term and near term. Near term, the 21 is way up here. That's where the sellers are probably going to show up again. So back up there, I could be a seller on Bitcoin. Down here, not so much. But if resistance continues to hold at these low prices with dollar strength, then yeah, I could be a bear there too. But this last 4 days, obviously, Bitcoin has done nothing. It's done nothing. So it's a very choppy asset this week, which means if you're a bull or a bear, chances are you're not getting what you want. So this is kind of a sit on your hands week if I've seen one lately. Best case that you can make is on the near term, the 4-hour chart. The last 2 days, the bulls were more aggressive to an extent. It's like once price gets back up to 64.5, it's like the bulls just fall off the map. So we kind of need to take out 64.5 at least for me to be like, okay, well, maybe we can look up at higher prices. As of right now, the 3-day doesn't look good. It does look like a support hold, but because you haven't taken out that 3-day high yet, you can't make the argument that the next 3-day high target would be 67.448. As of right now, bulls are just targeting 64.5. They need that breakout to target 67.5. But we'll see what happens today and tomorrow, obviously, and then next week we get the Fed. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Let me make sure that we did not... I'm waiting until July to declare the monthly bearish. You still have several trading days to close. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the Fed. So yeah, by July, we should know a lot more. We're going much lower on the lower time frame. I can see a YouTuber president in the future. Yeah, me too, unfortunately. That sucks to say out loud. Because, I mean, a lot of them are just still young, and that's their issue. Once they become, 38, 40, they're going to have a different outlook on life. If they have children, all of that will change. So how they are now might not be how they are in the future. Obviously, I was a much different person when I was 25 than I was at 35, and now 45, completely different. I do not like the path the country is on, and I don't give a shit which side of the aisle you vote. I think it looks bleak on both sides. They need to get in control of spending. Oh, there's an oil alert. Yeah, I don't know that I want to short oil right now with a strong dollar, especially seeing how oil is clearly holding support. This is an issue for me. The oil's got support right here at the 21 week, and for the last 3 weeks, that support has held. This is a lower low, but as of right now, it looks like a liquidation, and that looks like all it was. Because once you made that lower low, you bounced with a higher low, then you put in this higher high, then so far you are bouncing at another higher low. So I still have the near-term bias weak, but down here, not so much, not with support right in our face with the current dollar strength. Now, if dollar rejects, I could put an oil short on. If the dollar stops going higher today, like if it ends up being an absolute reversal up here and it just starts to fade, then I probably will put on that oil short. So I'll let you guys in the Discord know what I'm doing with oil later. Okay? But I can't really do anything with it here. It's got to be up here. I have to see what it does up there. All right. And with that, we'll wrap it up. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day and have a great weekend. We'll see you Tuesday morning. And then for the Discord, I'm always around. You guys have a fantastic day. Make sure you guys trade safe. Make sure you trade smart. And as always, happy trading, everybody.